Gully erosion threatens lives and property in some communities as the rains set in, and the fight against rape intensifies in many states of the Federation. Plus, rural empowerment strategies to improve the lives of Nigerians at the grassroots, and the yam market, which makes Nasarawa State unique. A warm welcome to this week's edition of The Correspondents. It's a pleasure to have you join us. I'm Naja'atu Tijani. Let's begin with the erosion menace. Residents of Dawaki, a suburb of Abuja, face the risk of losing their homes and sources of livelihood to gully erosion. They are therefore appealing to the federal government to intervene in the growing threat of the environmental hazard, especially in this period of rain. Correspondent Rosemary Multileng Bilal, who visited the area, has a situation report.
As the rainy season continues to advance, residents of Dawaki are living in fear due to the dangers of gully erosion that have continued to swallow up the landed property in the area. Residents say they have made an appeal through Buhari local government office to the FCT minister to come to their aid, as about 15 houses, 10 lands have been destroyed, but nothing has been done in that regard.
The gully erosion is threatening our life, it's threatening our community. As a resident, our resources cannot carry it anymore. Years by years, we have been contributing to maintain the environment. But due to what is on ground in the nation today, this year we cannot contribute. We are begging the government to come to our help.
They added that if drastic measures are not taken to stem the menace, the community may soon be eliminated.
We really need government help. This road runs straight to Duse. It's a very busy road. And when this erosion comes, last 2 years it broke, this road broke. And pipes from Osman Danfodio Dam were laid bare, which was very scary because it carries the currents of water there. If it breaks, we hear it could flush the whole Dawaki. So it was very scary. They just came and covered it. And we're happy because we thought they had come to do the road. But they still left the road like that. And it kept getting worse. Last year, this whole place flooded, the houses flooded. Somebody ran to me and said they woke up and they saw water in their rooms. That's how people die. Somebody used his phone to film it and came and showed me that they just woke up and saw they were soaked. Their houses were in water.
We've been crying for the past 12 years for the roads to be repaired. You can see the state of the road. We've taken you around. We have seen all the gully erosion, eating into the GSS secondary school. The major canal here that we are seeing behind me has been a threat to the community. Most of the electrification you are seeing here are done by the community. Wires is being procured by the community residents. Even pole, we have to do anything. PACN will ask us to bring out money. We do that in order to have our to be comfortable. But we are crying on the federal government, the local government chairman, even the FCT ministers to come to our aid.
Already, at the last count, over 15 homes, schools, and churches have been caved into the hot gully created by the rampaging erosion. The magnitude of gully erosion, which started years back, has killed one person and rendered many residents homeless.
That's true, Rosemary. Though the federal government has set in motion a number of interventions for extensive environmental remediation, there is need for urgent intervention to control the erosion menace in Dawaki. Thank you very much. Now to another issue of serious concern. That's the increasing rate of rape. creating a special court to try rape cases. Accelerated hearing and stringent penalties for offenders will make the society uncomfortable for the sexually perverse. This is the position of most campaigns in Akwa Ibom State, with emphasis on a shift from mere rhetoric to full implementation of penalties if the fight against rape and other forms of violence must be won. Correspondent Ifoma Aihoji reports.
It is on record that violence against women and girls is one of the most widespread, persistent and devastating human rights violations in the world today, which remains largely unreported due to the impunity, silence, stigma and shame surrounding it.
A woman presently about 65 or 70 years who was sexually assaulted when she was a minor. And she didn't say anything until now that she's about 65. It just suggests that people are not willing to expose some of these malfeasance on the part of the men folk. And I think that that is the beginning point.
Because of stigmatization, a lot of rape defilement cases are not reported at the local police stations. So now what we are saying is that if you have such a problem, even if you have problems going to the police station, you should be able to meet a committee member in your locality and report. He knows how to get in touch with the DPO to further the investigation. And like I sounded the note of warning, anybody now, no matter how highly praised, once we have a prima facie case against you for rape defilement, we will go as far as parading you before the press.
Some of these abuses manifest under such subheadings provided by the United Nations as intimate partnership violence, human trafficking, female genital mutilation, child marriage, and the loudest, sexual violence and harassment. To nip the scourge of these societal ills in the bud, various women groups in Akwa Ibom State have taken campaigns to the streets of Uyo, and their messages are unanimous. Stop violence against women. Don't defile minors and other vulnerables. Stop rape. From FAIREP, the pet project of wife of Akwa Ibom State Governor, to female lawyers under the aegis of FIDA, Nigeria Association of Women Journalists, the Medical Women Association of Nigeria, other civil society and religious groups are resolved in their desire to end increasing spate of rape, protect victims, and ensure due prosecution of offenders. Leading the advocacy at various fora, wife of Akwa Ibom State Governor, Mrs. Martha Odom Emmanuel, recommends stiffer penalties for culprits to serve as deterrents to others.
We need to put these people behind bars permanently. Our children are no more safe. Our young girls are no more safe. They can't walk on the streets alone.
There is no excuse for rape. No excuse for rape. And we in NAWOJ, Nigeria Association of Women Journalists, we will name you and we will shame you.
It's a planned act. It's already planned. It's what is in the mind. And there should be a stop to it. And I think what is making this to be rampant is because these people are not being brought to book. If there is all this law, all these acts that we have said, let us come to the table and implement them once and for all. This lockdown has shown what is happening. It has been happening, but this lockdown has exposed many things. And we are being killed. Enough is enough.
No excuse to rape. Zero tolerance to rape.
Prompt report of cases of violence to appropriate authorities, willful witnessing, changes in the laws of giving evidence, particularly for minors, timely prosecution of offenders, legal practitioners say, will ensure fair justice and serve as deterrent to other offenders.
Rape is a global social problem and its perpetrators cut across all age brackets. It is a serious crime against the dignity and sexual rights of an individual. In Nigeria, rape is a serious crime and if convicted, carries life imprisonment or 14 years imprisonment in the case of an attempted rape.
It has gone out of hand. And that is why we're talking about it. Perhaps before now, there was this, oh, don't go there, don't talk about it, you know. So now victims are coming out. Those who have been assaulted, those who have been raped, they are coming out in their numbers to give testimony, to testify against it, because it's a menace which must be cut off.
A crime against an individual is a crime against a state. So when once the crime is committed and you report, that matter automatically becomes a crime against the state. And so you do not have any right to say, I want to withdraw. You cannot withdraw. What is happening in Akwa Ibom now is that when you come to withdraw, we will arrest you. Because when you keep withdrawing cases and cases are not prosecuted, it enables these perpetrators because they think nothing can be done.
To end violence against women, especially the pervasive rape culture in recent times, it is expected that the government, the media, Temple of Justice, and of course the society will pull force together to fight this menace to a standstill.
Now we're still hitting the spotlight on rape. And to speak further on the topic is our correspondent in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. Ifeoma, thanks for joining us on the correspondence.
Thank you for having me.
Now, there has been nationwide campaign against the alarming increase in the cases of rape. What is the mood in Akwa Ibom State concerning this?
Well, the campaign is also replicated here in Akwa Ibom State with the wife of the governor leading the campaign. She has also directed the wives of chairmen of local government areas to take the campaign to their various areas, and this has been done. Also, different groups have taken to the campaign, or have taken up the campaign. We have religious organizations, we have female lawyers, we have the women journalists, even the Medical Women Association, doing a lot of things here, taking the campaigns to the streets and, raising awareness.
And speaking of that, in the past, many could not speak out because of stigma. But that has now changed as most campaigns focus on breaking the culture of silence, like you've just mentioned, using language to break those barriers. Do you think this will check the ugly trend? What are the experts saying from your observation?
Definitely, I think it will help check this trend. A lot of women are now gaining boldness, considering that everybody is behind you, everybody is supporting you. You have the female lawyers and journalists, everybody is giving you encouragement. So women are gaining boldness, families are gaining boldness to speak up about this evil. Some groups are also advocating naming and shaming rapists. And so that's what is happening here. So people are gaining boldness to talk about it. Worthy of mention is also the role the police is playing in all of these. Recently, there have been several arrests of accused rapists, and we hope that the victims get justice. We hope that that these rapists are prosecuted adequately so that it can serve as a deterrent to other people who may think of this evil.
And that's really important. What was the take-home from the campaigns you covered?
Every family should be bold enough to report such cases or individuals. And when this is reported, that the culprits should not just go free. They shouldn't just enjoy freedom as if nothing happened. People are advocating stringent measures. For instance, making sure that maybe just throw them behind the bars and leave them there permanently, or do something very serious so that other people will think of better things to do.
All right, thank you very much, Ifeoma. That's an important lesson there. People should speak out against it. Now, thanks for being a part of the correspondence, for joining us via mobile phone.
I'm glad you had me.
And still on the correspondence, efforts to improve community and social development projects in Ebonyi State. Join us again.
The coronavirus spread is increasing daily, and only together can we cut down the numbers and defeat the spread of the virus. Remember, COVID-19 is not a death sentence, and a recovered patient cannot spread the disease. Do not stigmatize. Do not hesitate to report any case, or if you have come in contact with anybody that has been infected with COVID-19. If you have cough and fever, please stay at home and call your state hotline. Find state numbers at www.covid19.ncdc.gov.ng. Remember, It is for your own good and for the good of every Nigerian. Let us do better and defeat the virus. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Welcome back to The Correspondents. Let's take you to the popular yam market in Nasarawa State, which for many decades, known as Agyaragu Town along Makudi Lafia Road in Nasarawa State, has served as a popular stopover point for travelers because of the vibrant yam market, giving weight to the statement about communities all over the country, showcasing unique features which make them attractive and centers of economic activities with promotional impact on the well-being of the people. Correspondent Abari Solomon visited the market and has a situation report.
For Aliu Adamu and David Akala starting early to meet production target and ensure Agyaragu yam market and others have the commodity is top priority.
Doya anan babu faduwa sai riba. Bayan na nome ta kuma ni dan kasuwanta ne. Abin da ya kawo ni kasan kenan. Tun ina sayarwa sai naga ƴan kasan suna noman doyan kuma ana samun riba. Ni ma sai na shiga. Yanzu ma ruwa nake jira nan bakin dan filin nan haka zuwa itacen can. Zuwa wancan itace, zuwa wannan mahadan hanya. Shine za a mini bungan shi in ruwa ya zo.
When you plant yam like 3,000, what you are going to get inside is more than 4,000. Because this year, rain does not fall like the other year.
Business, we are managing, it's not done like before. We are just managing like that because there is enough of yam like the other time again. So we have been managing like that. A little while we used to bring from bush and sell it here with your customers.
Travelers through Nasarawa State to eastern or northern parts of the country are aware availability and affordability of yam get them to stop over.
The business actually, like before, the business is going smoothly, but as of now, there is not enough market, especially the yam. It's not enough in the market. So we, the buyer, do find it very difficult. Due to the lack of yam in the market, the demand of the market is high. So for that reason, as of now, we do find it very difficult to buy and due to the high price.
Before we do load in a day, we can load 3, 4, 5. But hardly in a week, we load 1. So the economics of the area has been paralyzed seriously based on the pandemic situation we found ourselves inside.
In recent time, however, the market is not flourishing. Stakeholders say farmers-herders conflict, soil infertility, lack of access to agrochemicals and other farm inputs affects production. Zaidu Ali, chairman of Agyaragu Yam Marketers Association, says the market, which employed hundreds, lost it due to security challenges. According to him, the business is no longer promising, saying peace is needed to revive the market to boost income of participants and government revenue. Others say patronage can be increased by revisiting government initiative of exporting yam to encourage farmers and rekindle hope in the market.
Now that Engineer Ezule is on the throne, I beg him in the name of God. If that supply, they will do that supply to America, make it reach us in Agyaragu here. That is the appeal that I will do.
In fact, it would be good for government to assist the farmers in terms of financial and fertilizer. If they can do that, in fact, there will be more production and people will come and buy and take it out. Minus that, when there is no assistance from government, we farmers used to suffer.
A buyer, Mr. Stephen Akio, however, laments non-availability of yam and hike in price as a result of COVID-19.
The way we got yam now, it rise because of the transport. The market is not moving well. That is why the price rise.
Business activities in this market keeps going down, as stakeholders are alleging fear that if measures are not put in place to motivate farmers and marketers, the market will soon be a shadow of itself in the nearest future.
Surely, Abari, the gains of the Agarago yam market greatly outweighs the pains. Many thanks. And from Ebonyi State comes this report that in spite of measures to improve the living standards of rural communities in Nigeria, a lack of intermittent evaluation remains the bane of proper appreciation. To rewrite the narrative, correspondent Innocent Agbo reports on a rural empowerment strategic meeting on community and social development projects in Abakaliki.
Persistent poverty among the people has continued to put government and her partners on their toes in designing different models to tackle the menace in developing countries of the world. A decade after, in operating community-driven development approach as adopted under the World Bank-assisted Community and Social Development Project, CSDP, and the federal government, critical stakeholders in Ebonyi State converged for evaluation. The state governor, Chief David Umahi, is represented by the secretary to the state government, Dr. Kenneth Obala.
When we look at this project, we are not only inspired because of the project, but it is in compliance with ECOBARO standards, which is what we are talking about in our state. When you move around the other states, you will see that Ebonyi has taken over from the 36 states of Nigeria.
We also want to use this medium to urge the World Bank to continue with this type of program because it is actually life-touching.
So there is transparency, there is equity, there is capacity through training there. They are going to acquire. But this city approach has actually provided an opportunity for those communities to enhance their capacity.
The project outcome evaluation report from the academia, led by Dr. Paulinus Opolu, further lay credence to the acclaimed tremendous performance of the CDD approach in the project with more submission for improvement.
What was measured here increase in the number of school-age children enrolled in schools.
As much as possible, we should look at the individual more. And that individual, you cannot begin to select people and dash them money. But get the environment more conducive.
This is the only program that I have seen that has really touched the life of the rural poor, as envisaged. And if really government wants to improve on the rural poor, as is indicated in this document, they should practically make use of technocrats.
Community-driven development approach as a model has proved correctly that members of rural communities, if given opportunity, have the capacity to identify and prioritize their needs, and if financially empowered, can implement and maintain public facilities, and social ownership will be guaranteed.
Now, indeed, Innocent, bringing development to the grassroots is one of the dividends of democracy. Thank you very much. And that's the correspondence this week. Thanks a lot for being a part of it. We hope to see you again next week. You can follow the Twitter handle at FUOLUANTA, hashtag NTA Correspondence. Now, remember to use the hashtag NTA Correspondence whenever you make a comment or ask a question. And a quick reminder that COVID-19 is real and spreading fast. Remember to maintain personal hygiene by washing your hands with soap under running water every 20 minutes and abide by the social distancing rule. Take responsibility and stay safe.
My brother, my sister, papa, mama, and pikin. Corona, no big pass us. We go fight time, we go win. As long as we remember to always do the right thing. Wash your hands, love each other, we go, we know. Corona, na the virus, we dey worry human being. E no get Lego, but e dey waka from person to person. But we fit beat time, we fit stop time if we maintain good hygiene and practice social distancing. We go, we know. No shaking hands with your neighbor. Blow them a kiss from afar. Use soap and water to wage war. Let's show this thing who we are. We are special, we're courageous, we are awesome human beings. We dey super, we get power, we can conquer anything. If we hear word and obey laws and exercise discipline. Wash your hands, love each other, we go, we know. If it be like say you know well, like it's something they do you. And you feel say, you believe say, you get a seed it do you. And your body no grisogy, like it's something they do you. No let panic finish you, you go, we know. Self-isolate for the sake of all the people that you love. Don't go around spreading rumors, 'cause fake news won't help anyone. You are special, you're courageous, you're a caged human being. You too much, oh, you get power, you can conquer anything. Only if you hear word and obey laws and exercise discipline. Wash your hands, love one another, we go, we know. My brother, my sister, papa, mama, and pikin. COVID-19, no big pass, we go fight and we go win. Just as long as we remember to always do the right thing. Wash your hands, love each other, we go, we know.
Learn to cough and sneeze with your pal Grover. Step 1. Realize you're about to sneeze. Step 2. Move your elbow toward your nose and mouth. Step 3. Gesundheit. 1, 2, 3. Remember to cough and sneeze into your arm or elbow and not your hands.
Akili, 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 akili. Will you wash your hands with me? I want to wash my hands with you. Come on, I will show you what to do. Wash your hands in clean water. Wash your hands, wet them with the water. Wash your hands, now add some soap. Scrub your hands in the soap and water. Scrub above and below between the fingers too. Scrub under your nails and scrub a dub-a-doo. Rinse your hands in water. Rinse them clean, rinse away the soap. Dry your hands and go.
Akili, why do we wash our hands?
To wash away the germs.
Akili, what are germs?
They're like tiny little bugs on your hands, and they can make you sick.
But I don't see any germs on my hand.
That's because they're so tiny.
takes Lagos as Nigeria's daily COVID-19 chart with 166 cases as the country records 790 new cases of the virus.
Nigeria's critical economic sectors get 20 billion naira for infrastructure development.
Senate receives confirmation request for 42 ambassadorial nominees from President Buhari.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus is on COVID-19 and the imperative of local content.
Well, the current socio-economic and health realities in the world have impacted greatly on projections and plans of many countries, giving rise to a new normal as we know it today.
All right, Kira, that's certainly true. In Nigeria, the development and utilization of indigenous capacity is indeed a task that is being pursued vigorously, especially against the background of President Buhari's admonition that we must produce what we eat and then eat what we produce.
And this plan to show up local content primarily targets the non-oil sector, especially as Nigeria's main export, crude oil, is witnessing intense turbulence as a result of plummeting oil prices and the coronavirus pandemic.
Well, the global economic downturn has also seen the death of donor funds, and this, of course, has necessitated a number of countries looking inwards. In Nigeria, various frameworks are also being developed for the exploitation of opportunities while staying competitive.
Now, lack of local content has over time been blamed for the current level of unemployment as well as lack of capacity despite available legislation to shore up the value chain in many sectors.
Now, for instance, in the Nigerian oil and gas industry, we have the Content Development Act of 2010, which has a number of provisions with regard to what is required of participants in the oil and gas industry. And that act, of course, is being primarily implemented by the Nigerian Content Development Board.
And other sectors such as banking, aviation, shipping, automobile, textile, broadcast, agriculture, and so on also have guidelines for local content development to enhance opportunities for Nigerians. In 2017, Executive Order 3 was signed to improve on local patronage of made in Nigeria goods and services.
Well, yes, Kira, the order was signed by Vice President Professor Yemi Oshibajo, who was then acting president. But later on, in February of 2018, President Muhammadu Buhari signed Executive Order 5 to ensure that procuring authorities give preference to Nigerian companies in the award of contracts. Order 5 also prohibits the issuance of visas to foreign workers with skills that are readily available in Nigeria.
All right, and how have these efforts impacted local capacity? What other issues should be addressed to further shore up local content in Nigeria? Is there better patronage for made in Nigeria goods? And what does the future hold for local capacity in the country? This is our focus on the program. My name is Kiren Umayo, welcoming to today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria, broadcast live on the network service of the NTA. And of course, we are reaching you from the nation's capital city of Abuja.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Kira to also welcome you to the program. In a moment, we shall serve you the highlights of the morning news, and later on we'll have some bits of business news, after which newspaper reviewer Bayo Atobi will be available for the newspaper review segment. But before that, of course, the program runs out. We hope to take some of our segments, including sports. For now, let's join Chimobi Watanaji for the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Chimobi.
Hello, good morning, Kingsley and Kieran. It's good to be here with you this morning. Good morning, Nigeria. Here's the morning news. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has announced 790 new cases of COVID-19 in the country. A breakdown of the new cases indicates that Delta recorded the highest number for the day with 166 cases, while Lagos has 120 cases. Enugu recorded 66. FCT recorded 65, Edo 60, Ogun 43, Kano 41, Kaduna has 39, while Ondo has 33 and Rivers 32. Others are Bayelsa with 29 cases, Katsina 21, Imo has 20, Kwara 18, Oyo 11, Abia has 10, and Benue has 6, and Gombe has 4 cases. The day's tally is completed by Yobe, Bauchi, and Kebbi states with 2 cases each. With the latest development, total number of active cases stands at 15,729 cases, while 10,152 cases have been successfully treated and discharged. 603 patients died, unfortunately. And about 20 billion naira has been approved by the Federal Executive Council in enhancing the provision of infrastructure in the critical economic sectors for sustainable growth and development of the country. Now, this was at the 14th meeting of the Federal Executive Council in the year 2020. President Muhammadu Buhari presided over the meeting, which was also the 5th to be held virtually.
The second road is the Cham-Numan section of the Gombe to Yola highway. Again, the revision of the cost is by 7.607 billion. This is to cover the cost of replacing about 11 kilometers of what we call black cotton soil. This is very bad soil on the side near Savannah.
And away from works on infrastructure, over 2 million jobs will be created by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture within the next 3 years, in furtherance of genuine efforts by the Buhari administration to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. The Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, disclosed this while briefing journalists shortly after giving account of his stewardship to the Federal Executive Council.
The number one job creator under the Ministry of Information and Culture is the digital switchover in broadcasting, which is set to create 1 million jobs in the next 3 years through the manufacturing of set-top boxes and TV sets, TV and film production, as well as TV and online advertising and data, among others. Of course, the DSO will also fetch $100 million from the collection of TV licenses and digital access fees, as well as $1 billion from the sale of the spectrum that will be vacated once the analog to digital migration has been completed.
Now to the National Assembly, where on the 11th of June 2020, the Senate confirmed 42 career ambassadors designate as requested by President Muhammadu Buhari in furtherance of his resolve to strengthen Nigeria's missions abroad. The President has again written to the Senate requesting the confirmation of 42 ambassadors.
While using this opportunity to express my sincere appreciation to the distinguished Senate for the confirmation of career ambassadors earlier forwarded, it is my hope that this request will also receive your usual expeditious consideration.
While thanking the President for sending the name of the career one, we want to say that for the FCT, that the non-career has not been submitted.
And more than 9 million pupils across the country are currently benefiting from the National Homegrown School Feeding Program. This information got to the attention of the House of Representatives, hence the invitation of the officials of the program to provide details of implementation.
We are looking at probably coming with a law to anchor this program. Yes. Because it appears it is open-ended and there is no rule to say who does what you should do, and we shouldn't operate in such money. The details of the schools that you see are usually provided by the states. And also that is why we engaged the MBS to do some validations. There are instances where maybe a school may not be feeding because the states did not provide that information properly, or they have not been able to provide the cook that to be there. But I can authoritatively say that the program is implemented in every state that is participating, all the local governments.
And that's the morning news. The program continues with Kingsley and Kieran just after the break. To stay with us.
Main way coronavirus spread is when infected people sneeze and cough. Small droplets of fluid expelled by cough or sneezes are laced with viruses looking for new respiratory tracts to infect. When a sick person sneezes around someone who is healthy, the virus can land in the nose, mouth, or even the eyes, causing an infection. Symptoms can include fever, cough, shortness of breath. Symptoms may appear within 2 to 14 days. Seek medical advice if you develop symptoms and have been in close contact with a person known to have COVID-19, or if you live or have recently been in an area with ongoing spread of COVID-19. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
My name is Oren Shere, founder of Arami Essentials, the natural beauty brand based in Lagos, Nigeria. I started Arami out of the desire to see an improvement in the beauty sector in Africa. As I built the foundation of the brand, I realized the importance of awareness. There is no point having products if nobody can see them. So we decided to go online. Taking my business online grew my business exponentially and opened me up to many opportunities. And that's what Visa is offering all owners of small businesses. As an entrepreneur, you can access a bouquet of business solutions and offerings. I encourage every small business entrepreneur to sign up on visa.com.ng to discover more about how Visa is empowering small businesses to thrive.
In this time of despair, our country, Nigeria, needs us now more than ever. We stand a chance to save our great country, Nigeria. A chance to rise up from this pandemic stronger and better. What will be the gain if we do not learn from other countries and observe the lockdown to stop the further spread of the virus? If we loosen our guards and allow this virus through our very existence, then what have we gained? This is the call to every Nigerian to unite as one and stop the spread of this deadly virus. Stay at home and stay safe. Remember, the virus doesn't move unless we move. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network. Nigerians, let us take responsibility. Stay healthy, stay safe, and curb the spread of the virus. Take responsibility. The coronavirus spreads from one person to another. Let us avoid crowd gathering of any kind for any reason. Take responsibility. Avoid traveling from one state to another during these lockdown restrictions. Obey all the rules that are put in place. Take responsibility. Stop spreading fake news and unverified reports about the coronavirus. There is no known cure for COVID-19. Take responsibility. Observe all the measures that can help stop the spread of the virus. Together, we can do this, but only if we take responsibility. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now it's time for business news, and here is Comfort Amodu.
As the Central Bank of Nigeria commits to building the financial services sector to promote innovation for effective financial inclusion, small and medium enterprises have been encouraged to invest in technology and create ways to source raw materials and supplies locally for their businesses to thrive in this era of COVID-19.
And with the global pandemic having severe and unpleasant impact on low-income households as well as low-skilled workers, the Director General, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDAN, Dr. Diko Umaru says it is pertinent for industries and businesses to redefine their businesses to adapt to the new normal so as to build a sustainable business. He also harped on the need for SMEs to register their businesses as well.
Most of the small and medium are registered. About 97% of them are registered. Those that are not registered are the macro businesses. And these macro businesses, they constitute about 40 million of Nigerians. And the reason why we introduce the CGS is to try to formalize those informal sector through registering them with the CSC, through providing a macro insurance for them, through providing entrepreneurship training to them, and then giving them a grant of 50,000 each to build on his business. And I think part of the submission we made to that committee was to provide a grant to macro businesses, because macro businesses could not be able to access all these palliatives that goes through the banks.
Meanwhile, the U.S. is beginning to witness the impact of COVID-19, with employers announcing additional job cuts of 170,219 in the month of June, as the recession caused by COVID-19 depresses demand and pushes companies into bankruptcy. The layoffs reported by global outplacement firm Challenger, Gray and Christmas were down by 57% from May this year, in contrast to June last year. And these are the postures of activities on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. With business news, Comfort Amadou.
Thank you indeed, Comfort, for that business package. Next on the program is newspaper review.
Parvia, Bayo Atoyebe is here with us at the studios. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, Kiri.
It's a pleasure to see you here again.
Thank you.
And let's get started with the News Direct, Nigerian News Direct. Above the nameplate, on making stamp duty the new black gold, Mohammed Nami. That's on page 13. COVID-19 is locked down. Federal government approves July 8 for resumption of domestic flights in Lagos and Abuja. It's on page 3. President Buhari appoints Professor Adesoji Adesoba as MD Nigeria Export Processing Zones Authority. It's captured on page 10. And now the lead story, mixed reactions, trail hike in petrol pump price of 143.80 per litre. Now, it shows insensitivity on the part of government, says Labour. A price increase will affect manufacturers, says MAN. Investment in modular refineries will stabilize price, says IPMAN. That's on page 3. Now, below the photo story, have federal government targets $1.1 billion from digital switchover, 2 million jobs, according to Mohammed. That's, of course, the Minister of Information and Culture. It's on page 5. Additional, Isola, Bello, 38 others make list of 41 non-career ambassadors. It's on page 11. Senate moves to block Nigeria's revenue loss to money laundering and tax evasion. It's captured on page 8.
Okay, we'll take a look at the Nation newspaper. The Nation newspaper says above the nameplate, Lagos and Abuja airports to reopen July 8th, July 11th for Port Harcourt and Owerri. Details can be found on page 8. Below the name flag, Edo 2020, INEC to publish particulars of Obaseki, Izeyamo, and others. PDP, Governor will research state for brighter future. And Izeyamo Audu, a great combination. Details of that you'll find on page 27. Rao grows over plan to hire 774,000 for public works. With the rider, Buhari should suspend the program or go to court, says Senate. Then you have the usual sidebar on the front page of the paper showing in numbers global infection of COVID-19, fatalities, and then number of recoveries, plus the Nigerian numbers. Nigeria now has total number of infections over 26,000, fatalities 603, active cases 15,729. And the latest new cases, the highest so far, 790. And inside, in terms of further stories on coronaviruses, Governor Okowa and wife test positive for COVID-19. Delta records highest, 166 cases. Lalong, that's Governor of Plateau State, to ESCO members go for test. Attack, FMC, Lokoja, that's Federal Medical Center, Lokoja, shot as workers begin indefinite strike. You have details on pages 6 and 8. COVID-19 cases and deaths highest in June. CAN, that's Christian Association of Nigeria, and Sultan declared 3-day fasting. Ayo.
Well, let's start with the COVID-19. Governor Ifeanyi Okowa and his wife, Madam Edith, having tested positive, are now in isolation and receiving treatment. The Chief Press Secretary has assuaged the rumor that was all over at Sabah. Mr. Olise Ifejika says that it is not true that government house has been shot. He even indicated that the secretary to the Delta State government, who is also in self-isolation, is in fact handling issues from his confinement. Delta is the 6th most highest infected state in Nigeria. As at today, they have registered 1,131 cases, 918 are on admission, 190 have been discharged, and there have been 25 deaths in Asaba. You may recall that the Presidential Task Force has said there were 18 endemic local government areas. Asaba is one of the 18 endemic areas that the PDF was identifying for precision lockdown. Also in Osun State, the Secretary to the State Government has tested positive. Meanwhile, the cases yesterday indicated there are 790 in 21 states, and incidentally, Delta yesterday also said the highest, 166. Lagos was pushed to the second place, 120. Enugu is coming on very high, 66. FCT has 65. Edo has 60. So far, 26,484 of our compatriots have tested positive. We have unfortunately lost 608 Nigerians. Meanwhile, Governor Yahya Bello of Kogi State has clarified that Justice Nasir Ajana did not die of COVID-19. He said rather the Chief Judge of Kogi State died of natural causes. Governor Bello was speaking at the 3-day Fidel prayers in respect of Justice Ajana. He said Justice Ajana had been in and out of hospital long before COVID-19 reached Nigeria. Meanwhile, hoodlums yesterday attacked the Federal Medical Center in Lokoja. They allegedly ransacked the office of the Chief Medical Director as well as at the accounts office, cutting away files, laptop, and also cash. The attackers said they were yelling at the hospital staffs, saying that the hospital was giving Kogi State a bad name by alleging that there was COVID-19 cases in Kogi State. You will also recall that from all indications, there is, as far as Kogi State government is concerned, there has not been any case in Kogi State as far as COVID-19 is concerned. The NCDC has 4 cases and the state government has denied all. Meanwhile, in Plateau State, Governor Simon Lalong has ordered members of the State Executive Council to go for COVID-19 tests. This is sequel to a commissioner testing positive. Earlier on, the governor and his family had subjected themselves to COVID-19 test, and he says this is leadership by example and has directed all members of the cabinet to also go for COVID-19 test. Ibadan is in turmoil, not seriously turmoil, but flood. You will recall that NIMET had warned that there are some states that will be subjected to flood. And yesterday, Ibadan, part of Ibadan area, covering Abadata, Onipepe, Ariyo, Oki, Kute, and Abu areas were all inundated. And the challenges are not far-fetched. These are people who have built houses in floodplain areas. And the commissioner who is in charge of that says that they had actually earmarked some of the buildings there for demolition before COVID-19 came in and they were distracted. But unfortunately also, an articulated vehicle had run into a car, killing its 3 passengers and also a motorcycle, all in Ibadan yesterday. This happened around the Aleshiloye roundabout in Dugbe area.
What worries me really, Bayo, is the incidence of coronavirus in the government circles. Because ordinarily, this should be areas where precautionary measures should be taken. One wonders why Commissioner highest, right? Because it's from there that information is emanating to the public with respect to the protocol, that people should observe with respect to coronavirus. But meanwhile, it's attacking the government houses, where personnel who are supposedly, should be the purveyors of the news concerning COVID-19 are getting it. So I'm so worried about that, governors, commissioners, aides, and what have you.
Well, government houses are not immune in the sense that there are people who visit those places. And my sympathy goes to the governor of Delta State for one reason. He has been at the forefront of the war against COVID-19 in his state.
So the juice was not protected when he caught it. So that's the point.
It's not a matter of carelessness. Okowa himself is a medical doctor. That's the governor of Delta. He's a medical doctor. I recall that the state enunciated some of the toughest travel restrictions, border crossings and boundary crossings and so on and so forth. But the question Kieran is asking, why does it appear that government houses, are now becoming grounds of infection? There's no place that is immune. I mean, elsewhere around the world, we have seen presidents or prime ministers who have also been infected. Speakers of parliaments elsewhere in the world have also been infected. And then, the point is that those who have been infected don't necessarily live at all times in government house. So they interact with the members of the public.
Do you know I worry about this? Yesterday, getting around, to some offices at the ministry, you see, people don't wear face masks. And I keep reminding them, look, we are working in an office environment, that I'm used to, right? And you meet everybody every day, but nobody knows where people are coming from.
That's correct.
I keep telling them, we don't wear it. People are not wearing it. Because that must be the reason for this. Because if people maintain that, so that you must wear face masks, even if you're talking to somebody you're familiar with for a very long time. That is the point. But if you're not wearing, maybe you relax it. People are not relaxing. They just hang it down here and relax. Because if you're protected with face mask, it is difficult for you to get COVID-19.
Well, a few times that I had cause to go out, I have looked odd because I wear my face mask and everybody seems to turn to look at me like, where is this madman coming from? Because everybody I see around is not wearing a face mask. And the danger is that even in Enugu, for instance, there's now an instance, the state government is going to force people to protect themselves. If you are found not wearing your face mask correctly or properly, you are going to pay a fine of 10,000 naira.
Wearing a face mask is one. The other one is regular hand washing or use of hand sanitizer. At first it was fashionable, but I'm sure that, as has been indicated, people have dropped their guard, and so they are touching all kinds of surfaces. You are advised, to avoid touching door handles, but I'm sure, people, wherever you go, and somebody just grabs the door handle and goes, and then the next thing he grabs an object and says, take, and then another one takes, and before you know it, you are touching your face or otherwise. And then persons who are more susceptible to contracting this thing on account of age or on account of pre-existing ailments, of course, get to be infected. I think the key thing is that we are letting our guard down, and the community transmission, is spiking. And I think that has to be re-emphasized. People cannot say that they are not seeing persons who are dying or who have died. The news is all over the place. Yes. High-profile fatalities have been recorded. Unfortunately, we lost the chief of staff to the president. We have also seen other very important persons. Senator Bayo Shinowo was representing Lagos East. He died died on account of COVID-19, and a whole number of other very important names that we have seen with regard to coronavirus. So you cannot say that you are looking for evidence of fatalities or the dangers. Yeah.
Thinking post-COVID-19, Nigeria's health sector is editorial, because it's connected. Yes. It is connected. So let's just briefly, what is the editorial talking about here?
Well, what Pilot is concerned about is that the COVID-19 has exposed the underbelly of our poorly equipped health facility. There's no doubt about that. But be that as it may, even those with highly equipped health facilities have been devastated by the COVID-19, talk less of those of us who have facilities that are very poor. And therefore, the editorial is saying that the opportunity now is to take the initiative that henceforth we should all put pressure on those who are our leaders to devote most of their commitment to improving our health facilities. And the argument is that based on the AU declaration on health, which incidentally was signed in Abuja here, 10% of the budget is supposed to be allocated for health. And if you go by the last budget that was presented before it was reviewed, the provision there, according to the editorial, gives every single Nigerian only about 300 naira per health. And that it's not good enough. Not only that, if you are going along the airport road, we have a prominent international cancer center sitting there. Big, bogus, fine infrastructure, empty, not sitting there. Yes, all we need to do is to equip such and many more in strategic places. Sadly, many of our Nigerian compatriots, health personnel, doctors, nurses, are in highest demand abroad, and they are among the best in the United States, United Kingdom, everywhere. Why? All we require is to provide the facilities here, and we can have the best of healthcare services in our country.
Okay, Bayo Atoyebi, thank you very much. Just to speak to the numbers that they gave, that from the federal budget, so much was given, and then therefore per capita for each Nigerian, this is the value. That is erroneous. The federal budget for health doesn't cover all of the health needs of Nigerians. State governments also budget for health. So what are those numbers? Those numbers are not included. I believe that local governments where they exist in the country also have provisions for health facilities, assuming those facilities do get to be provided. So sometimes we get around with this fiction of evaluating our national circumstances by just focusing solely on the national budget. Kieran,
yes, exactly.
Yes. All right, on that note, Bayo and Kieran, gentlemen, we would like to leave, but there's this story from Federal Medical Center, Lokoja. We'll have the opportunity of discussing it because it looks like there's some incipient danger ahead with regard to what needs to be considered. Bayo, see you tomorrow.
Tomorrow will be another day. Thank you.
It's Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. We are taking a short break now. When we return, we'll be looking at COVID-19 and the imperative of local content.
Coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, is spreading at an alarming rate all over the globe, including Nigeria. With the number of infected persons in Nigeria increasing daily, prevention is better than cure. Coronavirus has no cure. The virus spreads from one person who affects two persons, and by the time the affected person is isolated, the two persons have affected four, and it keeps spreading. You must take preventive measures to save yourself and that of the people around you. Always wash your hands with soap and water. Put distance between yourself and others. Whenever you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth. Clean and disinfect surfaces. Stay at home if you're sick and contact the proper authorities. Together, we can cut down the spread of the coronavirus. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest TV network.
Now believe this corruption. You know if you touch black man, if you like gather the whole Niger come together, make the cough. Nothing. Which one you want? Give me V&D. I beg, get small pieces.
How much you want to give them?
Give me 200.
Take your change now, will you?
You know what your change is?
My people, this coronavirus, na serious matter. Make na wash your hands regularly. Come use alcohol-based hand sanitizer. If you no see water, wash your hand. Make una sit down for house. You see this virus, so it no get leg. Now we dey waka krukere. No wakara make the virus for die. No forget, say, the betterment of our people. Now for your handy day.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Manchester United welcome Bournemouth to Old Trafford as they look to continue the decent start to Project Restart. Will they take all 3 points or will Bournemouth throw a spanner in the works? Find out this Saturday on NTA from 2:30 p.m. as Manchester United take on Bournemouth on Premier League Live. Premier League Live is brought to you by Access Bank and Babai Jebu.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
Nigerians, coronavirus is dangerous. It can kill. When you see this sign, high fever, cough, shortness of breath, drowsiness, pneumonia, don't panic, don't hide, don't embark in self-medication. Promptly visit the nearest medical facility. Report all cases to the nearest hospital. Prevention is key. Avoid contact with infected persons. Avoid crowded areas as much as possible. Wash your hands regularly. Use hand sanitizers. Your life is precious. Stay alive. Live long, live right. This message is sponsored by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture and the Nigerian Film Corporation. Nigerian Film Corporation, powering possibility.
Well, thanks for staying with us up to this moment on Good Morning Nigeria. And our conversation this morning is on COVID-19 and the imperative for local content initiative. Now, to set the tone for the conversation, here is Victor Azu with the background report.
Since the outbreak of COVID-19 in Nigeria and the lockdown across countries, virtually all forms of import and export have suffered. For a mono economy like Nigeria, the impact has been even more devastating for the economy. Global crude price has been on a free fall, which translates to dwindling revenue for the country. This situation has more than ever exposed Nigeria's overdependence on oil for revenue and imports to satisfy domestic needs. Indeed, lack of local content has been blamed for high unemployment and lack of capacity, to mention a few. Early in the life of the Buhari administration, the president famously declared, and I quote, "We must produce what we eat and eat what we produce," end of quote. This clarion call is not limited to the agriculture sector. It is a call to look inwards for all domestic needs in all sectors of the economy, from agriculture to textile, oil and energy to manufacturing. This explains why the Nigerian government prepared a new legislation, the Nigerian Content Development and Enforcement Bill, to revise the country's regulatory approach to mandatory Nigerian content in the oil and gas sector and beyond. The bill, which has made slow progress, was submitted to the House of Representatives in December 2019, seeks to promote indigenous participation in key sectors of the economy, like information and communications technology, mining, construction, oil and gas, and power, will repeal and replace the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Development Act 2010 if it becomes law. How can this be made even more potent, and what more needs to be done to ensure optimum productivity of local industries? These are some of the questions that guests on Good Morning Nigeria will be expected to answer.
Thank you very much, Victor Azu, for that backgrounder. With us in the studios now to discuss these issues in further detail, we'd like to welcome the Executive Secretary of the Nigeria Content Development Monitoring Board, Engineer Simbi Wabote. Engineer Wabote, pleasure to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thanks for having me. Right. My pleasure.
Also here with us in the studios, after such a long while, it's a delight to welcome the Director General of the National Automobile Design and Development Council, Jelani Aliyu. Jelani, delighted to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Okay.
And with us here in the studio as well is Justice Dare Faka. He is the technical advisor to the Minister of State for Petroleum on gas business and policy implementation. It's indeed a pleasure to have you here with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me, Kieran.
All right, gentlemen, obviously, I mean, you listened to the background report by our correspondent, and the persuasion for having this conversation this morning is what is unfolding around the world, and particularly for us in Nigeria, on account of the coronavirus pandemic. We've seen massive disruptions to supplies, and for us, to a large extent, that we are dependent on imports, whether raw materials, semi-finished, or otherwise finished products. Some analysts are already saying that we should be in a panic mode, as it were, because of the likely impact that this would have on us. But let's begin this conversation by just having your thoughts, because you represent very critical sectors of the economy and there are lessons to learn. What is it that you are seeing now on account of COVID-19 and the so-called new normal that we have entered? Let's begin with Jelani Aliyu.
Yes. Well, a very quick background. Our agency, the National Automotive Design and Development Council, we are very proud to be one of the 17 parastatals under the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. And when you look at the situation around the globe, like you mentioned, this is a time to look inward. And we believe that the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is positioned to really make a difference, because it's all about industrialization as the federal government diversifies away from crude oil into agriculture, industry, and mining. And the automotive sector has a capability to create tens, if not hundreds of thousands of direct and indirect jobs. So with the executive orders 5 and 3 that promote local content and local capabilities, we believe the automotive sector can really come in and provide those local services and local products. And that is why we're implementing the National Automotive Industrial Development Plan, which has 5 key elements. Investment promotion, to promote the local production of vehicles in the country as opposed to the continued importation of those vehicles. Development of infrastructure, which would allow us to produce vehicles and to also up the percentage of local content in Nigeria. And also important is skills development, because we believe the only viable future for Nigeria and the only authentic way to really take 100 million people out of poverty, as Mr. President has promised, is to empower Nigerians, especially the youth, so that they are self-reliant. So through our skills development initiatives, we're training youth across Nigeria. We're also building 7 automotive training centers across the country to empower the youth in mechatronics and make them self-reliant. We're also doing market development to empower Nigerians to be able to buy those vehicles by working with Jaiz, Zenith, and Wema Bank to provide single-digit automotive financing. We believe these are some of the things that would empower Nigerians and create that necessary products and services from within. Because we have realized, based on what is happening around the world, we have to be independent in the creation and promotion of services and products. And we're also improving standards. So these are some of the things that NADDC, under the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, is doing to support the federal government in creating jobs within the country and empowering Nigerians. And we believe that would be the best way to really defeat and bring about solutions that have been brought up by this COVID-19 pandemic.
All right, thank you. I'm still going to be with you, but not exactly now, because I'm personally concerned about what happens at the National Automobile Design and Development Council with respect to automobile engineering and mechatronics, as you call it, because we never needed the COVID-19 to let us know that we should build our own cars and stop buying from other. You're a car designer, a world-reputed car designer, and of course, because we know what we can do in Nigeria with or without COVID-19. So by the time we return to you, you'll be able to do some other explanations. But for now, let's go to the man who has the responsibility of monitoring Nigerian content development. Now tell us more. Yes, COVID-19 came on and we saw that, look, our underbelly has been exposed, so not just in the issue of maybe health sector, but in other sectors of life. Because now, if you can't import certain materials or certain products, from other nations, it behoves on you to start making yours. Now, let us know what you've been monitoring. What have you been monitoring, and what is there for you to monitor in the first place? Because, of course, if there's nothing existing, you have nothing to monitor. So let us know what this environment, that you are in is doing.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. Indeed, there's a lot to monitor. I am the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board. The law was established in 2010. We did not wait for COVID-19 to establish the local content law in the oil and gas sector. Primarily maybe because the sector has been around for quite some time, more than 50 years. And we realized, as being oil practitioners ourselves, realized that there has been a lot of capital flight over the years, over the 50 years. Almost $350 billion had left the shores of the country for the past 50 years because we did not exploit the value chain within the oil and gas industry for quite some time. So discussions started sometime in the Obasanjo's administration as to how are we going to claw back this capital flight and loss of jobs. And through there, a policy on local content was enunciated. And that policy was then domiciled with the Nigerian Petroleum Development, NNPC, to implement as a policy to drive local content in the oil and gas sector. NNPC tried its bit to push the boundaries in order to claw back some of this capital flight. And in 2010, a Local Content Act was enacted specifically for the oil and gas industry. Prior to the act, less than 5% of all activities, be it welding, be it employment, be it money that was spent, was taken out of this country. So we were asked to look at how to claw that back to a large extent. Now, it's also important to note that local content is not a sprint, it's a marathon, because you need to develop the desired capacity. You need to develop the capability. You need to train people on skills, and professionally giving people education doesn't happen overnight. So based on that mantra, we took it upon ourselves in 2010, and just to cut a long story short, today we've been able to move from less than 5% to about 32% in the pursuit of local content in the oil and gas industry. And my agency is responsible for implementing that legal requirement to ensure that Nigerians participate in the oil and gas value chain. Nigerians are employed within the oil and gas industry. Nigerians are given opportunity in the oil and gas sector. So in summary, if you look at it in terms of successes that we have achieved in the oil sector today, most of the international oil companies are headed by Nigerians. Today, the MD of Shell is a Nigerian. The MD of NLNG is a Nigerian. I spent 26 years in the oil and gas industry. I was a director of Shell. When we joined as young engineers, we had no aspiration to become directors because there was a cap for Nigerians. But with the push and pull in the oil and gas industry in local content, today we're primarily almost dominating the business in the service sector and also in the upstream sector. So there has been tremendous achievement, and there's a lot for us to monitor. Now, talking about the COVID-19 pandemic, what it has only done is to enable us accelerate our processes in order to achieve a lot more. So as NCDMB, we have a 10-year strategic roadmap where we want local content attainment at 70% in the year 2027. This was thought through
debated, and then we set that benchmark, and we are governed by the Local Content Act. And we are very much on track to achieve that trajectory. So to answer your question specifically, there's quite a lot to monitor. There's quite a lot of achievement within the oil and gas industry in terms of local content implementation.
Well, Engineer Waboto, thank you very much. You'll give us the details of that 10-year strategic roadmap and what needs to be done in the context of disruptions that we have seen arising from coronavirus. Let's bring in now Justice Derefaka. Justice, just so that our viewers will be clear about this, Justice is your first name, I believe.
Justice is my first name.
It's your first name, so that our viewers are clear that an Honorable Justice is also a technical advisor to the Honorable Minister.
Are you trying to defend the legal profession or something? His name is Justice.
As always, so as always. Well, fine. I had a classmate in primary school. His first name was Magistrate. So, but in this case, it is Justice. That's a wrong hire. Well, let's bring in now Justice, Mr. Justice Derefaka, who is also the technical advisor to the Honorable Minister of State, Petroleum. Now, what is your reading of what is playing out? Of course, I mean, both yourself and Engineer Waboto are in the oil and gas sector, but there's no question about the interconnectivity about our activities and operations in the oil and gas sector versus other activities elsewhere in the economy. How are you reading this situation, and what is the prognosis?
Okay, thank you very much. First, I would like to say that the oil and gas industry is super risk averse. So we're used to such shocks, and of course we have the tenacity and the durability to address such issues, and which is why we quickly reactivated what we call the business continuity plan. Now, on the federal government side, that business continuity plan is the economic sustainability plan, which of course the petroleum industry is playing a key role. Now, I've listened to several people talk about the adverse impact or effect of COVID-19 on the nation. Yesterday it has hit us hard, but one key thing Nigerians and of course all of us here need to understand is that, and appreciate, is that the government intervened appropriately and addressing these issues. Now, and that's why I said it's not all gloom and doom, and that as a nation we are not beyond redemption. And that's why in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, my boss, the Honorable Minister of State, His Excellency Chief Timothy Silva, has carried out several initiatives to making sure that the oil and gas industry, and in particular where I superintend and advise him on the gas business. So you can see that the gas industry is taking different dimensions to cap, if you like, address this shock of the COVID-19 pandemic, which of course we know that is going to be here for a long while, because we're not so sure of how this will play out, because there is no vaccine that has been developed to address this issue. So for us in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, one key document that we're looking at that government has clearly articulated is the National Gas Policy 2017. Now, there are a cocktail, and if you like, a suite of programs, policies and regulations to underpin the petroleum industry, and of course key into the Local Content Act, because for us we think that what this COVID-19 pandemic has taught us is to look beyond the immediate and begin to play a key role and have a rethink in terms of local content practice, particularly for the gas sector. And that is why we have several initiatives in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources that have to do with the National Gas Expansion Program, which is headed by Dr. M.M. Ibrahim. We have the Nigerian Gas Flare Commercialization Program, which we finished the transaction and commercial structure and the design, and of course come up with a regulation called the Flare Gas Prevention of Waste and Pollution Regulations 2018 that is now being implemented by the Department of Petroleum Resources. Aside that, the National Gas Expansion Program is looking to deepen and, of course, penetrate the domestic market with CNG and LPG and take away the issues of using kerosene and, of course, cutting trees and forests for domestic utilization. So these initiatives by the Honorable Minister of State Petroleum Resources, and of course, speaking to his ministerial mandate as handed over to his direct boss, who is Mr. President, the Minister for Petroleum, he has key mandate areas that he needs to deliver between 2019 and 2023. But I'll speak to just 3 of those, one of which is the development of the gas industry. And the Honourable Minister is looking to do this to, number 1, address infrastructural deficit, issue of gas pricing, issue around sanctity of contract, creating an enabling environment for investor-friendly businesses to thrive, addressing issues of pipeline vandalization. So if you look at this one, and then the second one the Honourable Minister is focusing on is exploration in the inland basin and, of course, offshore to increase what we have in this country as abundant gas resources up to 203 trillion cubic feet of gas. So I will stop here now, and then I'll come back with further information on that.
Yes, I just like what you just mentioned, the 203 trillion cubic meters of gas that Nigeria has, which is a great deal of quantum of gas that we have that is drastically underutilized for so many years. And you have railed out all the new plans put in place to get this done. But we'll come back to you. We will be doing further explanations on how this value chain can be explored and exploited to the benefit of Nigerians. Now, let's back to the Director General of the National Automobile Design and Development Council. Now, Kingsley, I used to think that such an establishment should actually be under the Ministry of Science and Technology. We're talking about automobile design and development. So I don't know, I may be wrong, but that's where my mind is going.
Because you're always passionate about science and tech.
No, not necessarily passionate.
But in this case, there's no satellite involved.
No, we were talking about we're talking about automobile. Because it's an engineering format, right? Talking about automobile design and, of course, development, right? So if it's automobile, then of course we're talking about machinery, or that has to do with the automobile. I mean, that we use either it's a car or vehicle or whatever kind of machine that is used to aid production. Now, I want to ask you this, Jelani Aliyu. Let Nigerians know what the development, the council is up to with respect to developing indigenous automobile. I know that a number of Nigerians have been involved in local production, perhaps not 100%. We know Innocent, there are others who are also involved. You may have a better knowledge of that. And what has happened over the years is that there is this poor patronage of such products, which perhaps maybe 40-60%, as the case may be. Nigerians don't patronize them, even at the governmental level, where those in power should be shown example of what we should do. Remember when Order 5 came up, right? So we're talking about local content initiative of Mr. President, and that has to actually translate, into ensuring that what we do, if it's possible for us to get our things done 100%, we'll do that. Now, in this connection, where are we with respect to articulating our own local automobile engineering? You, as a reputable automobile designer, has a lot in your kits in terms of knowledge, capacity, and capability, which you can also transmit, to other Nigerians. Well, we talked about training and all of that. So where are we in this? Because it worries me when we import a lot of cars that have no either assembly plant or either, not to talk of factory. But if you go to Asia, like Indonesia, Malaysia, even South Africa, many car manufacturing companies don't import the products unless they have automobile factories or assembly plants in that country. So if we were talking about local content and someone is just, bringing in finished products and we're paying for it, where are we going to start from?
Yes, that's really a very, very important and very crucial question that you brought up. Let's ask ourselves, what is it all about when you talk about automobiles and logistics and mobility? At the end of the day, it's really about empowering the individual or the family. It's about providing that means of transportation to move those kids from A to B, to take them to school, to go to market, to enable life, put smiles on people's faces by mobilizing them. So when you talk about the automotive industry, there are certain ways to achieve that objective. When you look at the history of the automobiles, back to the days of the Model T, Ford, when he came up with mass production, it enabled cheaper mobility and put America on wheels. The way vehicles were produced in those days is different from the way they are now. Back then, Henry Ford practically developed and manufactured every nut and bolt on that Model T. Since then, the industry has evolved, whereby you have the main OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, and you have suppliers of the different components that come in to make those vehicles. Any one vehicle has thousands of components that go in to make that vehicle. So, a little bit of history. Nigeria in the 70s and 80s, we had Peugeot, Anamco, Volkswagen, and we were producing about 140,000 new vehicles per year in the 70s and 80s. And then something happened that was beyond Nigeria's control. The price of crude oil dropped from $27 down to below $10 per barrel. It affected our economy negatively, and most of those companies had to close down because Nigerians could no longer buy new cars. And that is how these used cars began to come into Nigeria. So the NAIDP that we're implementing, and we've been implementing it for a couple of years, is to resuscitate the automotive sector. And since those efforts started, about $1 billion has been invested in Nigeria by a number of companies who are producing and assembling vehicles in Nigeria. Dangote Sino Trucks, Nissan, Innoson, and a number of other companies. So as of today, there are vehicles that are assembled and produced in Nigeria. Our Honorable Minister just early this year unveiled a number of these vehicles that are made in this country. So significant progress has been made in terms of producing and assembling vehicles in Nigeria. So, but we're not stopping there. At the end of the day, we have to be in a position to be part of the design and development phases of automobiles. And that is why NADDC is currently developing, we're designing and engineering 2 Nigeria-specific vehicles that would be in tune with our culture, climate, terrain, and economic structure. We can't show that to the world now, but we are working on them, and as soon as they're ready to be unveiled, Nigerians will see what Nigerians can design and develop. They're in progress. At the same time, like I mentioned earlier, we are empowering thousands of Nigerians, because we believe, like I said, the only viable future for Nigeria is the one where the youth are empowered and are self-reliant and are creative and innovative. So we're building 7 automotive training centers, 1 in each geopolitical zone, and the 7th here in Abuja, to empower Nigerians in mechatronics. What we hope to do is not just teach them in how to, fix a broken fan belt, but to enlighten them in some of the latest automotive technological systems, because vehicles now are basically computers on wheels. So we hope that these centers would be advanced locations where Nigerians, especially the youth, would learn advanced automotive technology. So the NAIDP, in terms of providing vehicles and empowering vehicle production and assembly, has really been in effect for many years. Like I said, by 2019, up to about $1 billion has been invested. So our efforts started many years ago, well before COVID-19. And based on what Nigeria needs, it appears that we are in tune and on the same page with the objectives of the federal government and President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. So we will continue with our efforts to empower Nigerians to be part of that developmental phase in producing and providing vehicles that are in tune with our culture, climate, and economic structures.
All right, Jalali, thank you very much. Let's bring in again Engineer Simbi Wabote. Now, in terms of ramping up local content in the oil and gas industry, the numbers you say now over around 32%, up from about 5%. What have been the critical success factors in this climb? And against the background, because we're talking about COVID-19, will those critical success factors avail let's say you represent that sector, avail you in your drive towards realizing the objectives of the 10-year strategic plan that's supposed to terminate in 2027?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think that's a very germane question. When you talk about the critical success factors that has led us this far, I think one of it's the law itself that was established in 2010. Currently, when it was a policy and it was being driven in the oil and gas sector, there were lots of challenges as most of the companies did not see any legal basis with which to drive it. So when it became law, it acted also as an opportunity for investors because they know that their investment will be protected. So it in itself, it's one of those. Secondly, I think the way the law was also couched, in order that it requires professionalism to lead the local content effort. And most of the people that were before me, the executive secretaries, were also industry experts who understood what the challenges were and what the opportunities were. That's also a factor. I think the third bit is domiciling the NCDMB in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources is also a critical success factor because it in itself provided the opportunity to synergize with the industry within that ministry, if you like. NCDMB, it's just like a department of the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. You imagine that it was outside the ministry. There will be a lot of interagency squabbles, lack of understanding of what was happening within the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. So it in itself is a success factor. And the other bit is the willingness for the international oil companies to embrace the local content law in the oil and gas sector because we were able to articulate the benefits to them clearly. One of the benefits, of course, is what it takes to pay one Nigerian. 5 experts you can use to pay one Nigerian. So it in itself is a benefit to them if they employ locals as compared to employing experts, because experts have high maintenance costs.
Experts in that case, expatriates.
Expatriates have high maintenance costs, so it's even more expensive to do that. The third bit is about security of supply. Take, for instance, in this COVID-19 situation, where most of the expatriates had to leave because of the health challenges. But Nigerians who have built capacity over time had to keep sustaining our business itself. So their willingness to embrace it because it was formulated with them with a clear understanding of the benefit of local content. And then most importantly, like I said, because in developing it, it takes time. It is not a sprint, like I said, it's a marathon. And to have that clear understanding and synergy between the industry and the board made it a lot easier. And then last but not the least is the support from the President, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, of course the President who is also a minister, that gives that executive backing to drive local content implementation. So this has been responsible for the successes we have recorded so far. And I think if that continues within that trajectory, we are very much on track to achieve our 70% attainment in the year 2027, because that strategy is hinged on 5 strategic pillars, which of course is capacity building and development. Just to give you an example, some years back, the oil services within the oil and gas industry were the exclusive preserve of the international service companies like the Schlumbergers, Halliburton, Baker, and the rest of it all. Today, Nigerians are practically taking over the entire service of the oil and gas sector, be it well drilling, be it well intervention, workover, wireline work. All these are within the exclusive preserve of Nigerians, because it was mandated by the law that drilling in the swamp and land location is reserved from Nigerians. But we did not take a knee-jerk reaction in the implementation. We set timelines, and a trajectory with which we got to that point. So this has also helped us. We've built enough capacity. We've built enough capability. We have also aligned with sectorial linkages in order that, just like my friend was talking about automobile, there are other sectors of the Nigerian economy that we are very much in line with in order to achieve a 10-year strategic objective. So it's clearly thought out. It is there for everybody to see, and it is conscientiously implemented. I give you an example. 2 days ago, we had a clear review of our path to achieving that attainment with KPMG to take an audit of how we have performed for the past 2 years. And I can tell you that we are almost 96% in terms of going through that trajectory to achieve 70% in 2027. So those are clearly some of the factors that have helped, and the focus in its implementation, of course.
All right, which is very key because in this country we've known that when it comes to policy articulation, we're number one. And then when it gets to the implementation aspect of it, we will tell some stories. Perhaps in the course of the program, you will let us know more about the implementation aspects of this. Now, let's return to Justice Derefaka. You read out a lot of plans in place, especially natural gas expansion program, gas value chain, and all of that. Now, lead us more into this natural gas expansion program that you have, because a country like ours, who is blessed with the trillions of cubic meters of gas, is not doing well, in terms of gas exploration and exploitation. So let us know what this expansion program is all about. We wish to know whether that has to do also with the issue of using gas as a precursor for production of other items.
All right, thank you, Kieran. And like you rightly mentioned, and I will allude to what the ES NCDIB had mentioned earlier, and that the natural gas that we have in abundance actually has sectoral linkage to the power sector, the gas-based industries, the agricultural sector, and of course the transportation sector. Now, talking about our gas reserves, Nigeria is actually more of a gas play than crude oil. So in the oil and gas balance, we say we have a tiny drop of oil and an abundant natural gas resource. Like I did mention earlier on, we have well over 203 trillion cubic feet of gas proven and over 600 trillion cubic feet of gas unproven. Now, what this means is that, again, with the lessons we've learned with COVID-19, the ministry's focus is long-term sustainability approach. Now, what that means is that we'll begin to look deeper on how we can diversify our economy with gas. And I'll give a typical example. Look at Trinidad and Tobago, a very small country. They have globally expanded their industry with gas. Now, that country has 1.4 million people with 11 trillion cubic feet, as opposed to our 203 proven gas reserve, TCF. Now, that country has globally competitive petrochemical industry. Plus, they are the number one globally in terms of ammonia export, and number two in terms of methanol export. And this contributes significantly to that country's GDP. Now, coming back home in Nigeria, as a country, we can do more and even achieve much more in terms of utilizing our abundant gas resources. And that is what the national gas policy aspiration is, to address all of these issues and, of course, open up our economy using our abundant gas resources. So the different initiatives we're running in the ministry that will, of course, create and, of course, add value to the Nigerian people is, again, like I did mention, the National Gas Expansion Program, which seek to gather all molecules, gas resources, across the broad spectrum of the gas value chain, and of course making sure that it gets to the end user, and of course at a very good price. And then so we're looking at deepening our CNG and LPG penetration in the country, to create jobs for Nigeria. And I was speaking to 3 of the 9 ministerial mandate area of the Minister for Petroleum Resources for State. And that number 9 actually talked about Mr. President's poise to achieving and, of course, raising millions of Nigerians out of poverty through job creation. Now, for job creation, I'll give you some numbers what the national gas policy has achieved, working again with the oil and gas major producers, the indigenous producers, and of course what NNPC is doing with the 7 critical gas development projects. So talking of numbers, 2 days ago, or day before yesterday, Mr. President flagged off the Ajaokuta Kaduna Kano gas pipeline project, a 614-kilometer gas pipeline that will unlock about 2.2 billion cubic feet of gas per day. Now, what that will do for the country is that it will resuscitate over 232 industries that went dead as a result of power crisis. For instance, over 3 million jobs were lost in Kaduna as a result of power crisis. So this is what the AKK pipeline, along the different corridors to straddle through, including Niger State, will build up and, of course, create jobs. It will spark up industries, the fertilizer, the methanol, and, of course, the agri-based industries as well. And it will create massive employment for the Nigerian people. Now, another thing the AKK gas pipeline project does that it gave birth to another AKK project, and that is the Abuja Kaduna Kano independent power plants that will, of course, along those corridors spring up industries and create jobs for Nigerians. So in a nutshell, I heard you mention earlier on that Nigeria is good at policy formulation, articulation, and framing, and implementation is a problem. I haven't seen that in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, because what we do in the Ministry of Petroleum right now, today, is that we are aggressively pursuing the implementation of the national gas policy. And recently, the Honourable Minister inaugurated the sector-wide committee to review the gas present in the country. And the whole intent is to see that gas becomes available to the Nigerian people at an affordable and competitive price. Earlier this year, the Honourable Minister commissioned one of the deficit area in the gas sector, which is the National Gas Transportation Network Code, and that has been long overdue. And that is the, of course, the New Year gift the minister gave to the industry, which address integrity issues, metering, transparency, and of course, give investor confidence to come and invest in the country. Now, another area I'll speak to, then I'll wait and then take further question, is that, remember, the minister declared this year, 2020, the year of gas. And there is no iota of doubt that, indeed, this is the year of gas, looking at all the different gas development activities that are taking place in the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Year of gas in spite of coronavirus, I believe.
Indeed.
That's right. Okay, now let's return to Jelani Aliu. Jelani, tell us something. I mean, in outlining the major pillars of your focus, you talked about investment promotion, development of infrastructure, skills development, and market development. All of these are crucial. But I was just wondering, and I should make the presumption as well, that you have a big picture view of the automobile industry. Because generally, the perception will be, once we talk about automobile, we'll be talking about cars and usual vehicles that we use for passenger transportation, small passenger transportation. But does your big picture view also incorporate, for instance, the agricultural sector? Let's say, are we on a course to say, look, we'll be in a position to develop our own tractors and trucks for logistics, and then, of course, ultimately for defense purposes? I mean, those tanks and other military trucks that we see elsewhere around the world, they come from the automobile industry. I'm asking this question again. We bring in coronavirus. You can see how every country has become insular and almost protectionist. I mean, the United States has now placed an order, exclusive order, as it were, for the drug that is supposed to treat coronavirus, remdesivir. They said, no, everywhere it is available in the world, it belongs to the United States of America. So I don't know whether we are likely to get into such a situation where we'll have challenges with other aspects of shall I say, automobile supply. So are you having this big picture view to say, look, we're sucking the logistics, we're sucking the agricultural sector, which is very critical in terms of mechanization, and ultimately also defense?
Yes, we do. We do have that big picture, which will, and it does already consist of, like you mentioned, agricultural development of the necessary tools, equipment, and mobility that will support agriculture. Also, a big component of that big picture is self or internal competency. Like I mentioned earlier, to be able to empower Nigerians, young Nigerians, to be part of that design and development of the necessary mobility systems required in the country. Because only we believe Nigerians would be in the best position to understand what those problems are and come up with the necessary solutions. Another component of the big picture is vehicle electrification. That is migrating from vehicles that use petrol and diesel into vehicle electrification. And also, I may say, into vehicles that are powered by CNG and LNG. Currently, we're in discussions with the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources on a program to convert diesel trucks into CNG and LNG. But the big picture is really an ecosystem that comprises of, yes, empowering agriculture. We're currently in discussions on developing a very, well, it's highly confidential, but a very applicable, yes, an applicable, cost-effective agricultural platform for use in remote areas. So, and we do already have companies that are producing agricultural implements in Nigeria. So we hope to continue and promote that. But the big picture really is to be to be independent, or to be in a position for the country to be able to design, develop, and produce the mobility systems needed in the nation.
Okay. Let's get back to the engineer Simbi Wabote. You've done a very good explanation of what your office is offering the nation with respect to content monitoring. But I also like to Kingsley's line of question in terms of expanding. Whether you're expanding your horizon to also capture other aspects of oil that also impact on the economy. For instance, talk about the nation's oil refineries. Right, and you have, of course, told us that Nigerians are now involved in critical areas of oil and gas production in this country, which is a healthy development. Now, in terms of oil refineries, what is happening there? We hear about the modular refinery system, which is, of course, what I will call kind of a nanotechnology in oil refining. To what extent, have we been able to get Nigerians involved in that? Because whenever we talk about refineries, people say, "Oh, look, those guys, those stuff there are obsolete and they're not functional anymore." After many times of trying to put it back, it's not working. But we have refineries in Texas, for instance, they've been there since the 60s, and they're still very functional. So one wonders, the magic being done there to sustain them. So what can we do locally to ensure that our engineers? I believe in Nigerian engineers. I believe in them totally, because having had conversations with many of them, of course, we are high ranking. When we talk about the efficiency, in terms of having the knowledge of what to do. But what really sets us back is, the political will, the provision of a good environment, for them to thrive, just like their counterparts are overseas. So what is the situation like with respect to that?
All right. Thanks a lot for that question. I realize you also challenged the issue about policies and policy implementation. In the course of the life of this administration, they enunciated the policy on modular refineries in order to augment and support refineries that, of course, the bigger ones that NNPC is dealing with in terms of the challenges, as it were. So we in NCDMB, of course, took that policy from government seriously, and we got involved in the modular refinery scheme, with which we started encouraging Nigerians to set up modular refineries. Now, it's important to understand the concept modular refinery, because a lot of people make a mistake thinking it's a different kind of refinery. All it means is it's built in modules with possibility of expansion. It is the same kind of refinery, but if, for instance, some of the refineries are refining 100,000 barrels of oil per day, modular refineries could refine 2,000 barrels, 1,000 barrels, 5,000 barrels, with potential to upscale it. So that's the concept, because a lot of people think it's a different kind of refinery. No, that's not what it is. But for us in NCDMB, we have actively participated in establishing some of those modular refineries in order to support government's effort and to put those refineries in the hands of Nigerians. We partnered with Walter Smith, which is, of course, a marginal field operator in the Niger Delta, to establish a 5,000 barrels modular refinery. As I speak, the plan was for that modular refineries to come on stream 1st of May 2020. But due to the coronavirus challenge, that date was deferred. So we believe that by July, this year, that refinery will come on stream. That's one. Secondly, we also partnered with Aziko Refinery in Bayelsa State to establish 11,000 barrels per day modular refineries. Construction is ongoing. The plan is 2023, that refinery will come on stream. We are looking at 3 other modular refineries, one in Edo State, partnering with DuPont to establish a 2,500,000 barrels modular refinery. That is expected to come on stream in 2022. So there are lots of activities going on within the modular refinery space to support, of course, government policy and government aspiration in order that we play in the downstream sector of the oil and gas value chain, as it were. So a lot of progress has been made in terms of driving the modular refinery from where we stand. ND Western, for instance, is just about to commission their upscaled 5,000 barrels per day modular refinery also in Rivers State. So there's a lot of progress. I can assure you that within the next 12 months, you are going to see most of those modular refineries operating and supporting the production of the refining of hydrocarbon. But of course, you also know about the Dangote refinery, which is also steaming on. And we believe that by the year 2022, or even before then, the 650,000 barrel refinery will also come on stream. And that, to a large extent, will create the self-sufficiency in refining that we're talking about.
What about the older refineries? Are we abandoning them?
I can't speak to that, but I know NNPC is actively working in order to reactivate them, but I can't speak to that because I don't have the details.
It didn't cover your area of monitoring?
It does. We monitor when activities happen within the refineries. We are a regulator, as it were, so we are not responsible in getting the refinery going, but once activities start, we will monitor those activities and ensure that Nigerians are given the opportunity to participate in the refurbishment.
All right. But gentlemen, thank you very much for your comments so far. We're going to have to take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation.
Is Orerin Shere, founder of Army Essentials, the natural beauty brand based in Lagos, Nigeria. I started Army out of the desire to see an improvement in the beauty sector in Africa. As I built the foundation of the brand, I realized the importance of awareness. There is no point having products if nobody can see them. So we decided to go online. Taking my business online grew my business exponentially and opened me up to many opportunities. And that's what Visa is offering all owners of small businesses. As an entrepreneur, you can access a bouquet of business solutions and offerings. I encourage every small business entrepreneur to sign up on visa.com.ng to discover more about how Visa is empowering small businesses to thrive.
as a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19. A corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 2255 4272. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
Manchester United welcome Bournemouth to Old Trafford as they look to continue the decent start to Project Restart. Will they take all 3 points, or will Bournemouth throw a spanner in the works? Find out this Saturday on NTA from 2:30 p.m. as Manchester United take on Bournemouth on Premier League Live. Premier League Live is brought to you by Axis Bank and Babai Jebu.
We have observed the lockdown. We have practiced the measures in order to curb the spread of the virus, but we can do better. The coronavirus spread is increasing daily, and only together can we cut down the numbers and defeat the spread of the virus. Remember, COVID-19 is not a death sentence, and a recovered patient cannot spread the disease. Do not stigmatize. Do not hesitate to report any case, or if you have come in contact with anybody that has been infected with COVID-19. If you have cough and fever, please stay at home and call your state hotline. Find state numbers at www.covid19.ncdc.gov.ng. Remember, it is for your own good and for the good of every Nigerian. Let us do better and defeat the virus. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Let's return to our guest now. Mr. Justice Derifaka, you've spoken extensively about how the gas master plan is being implemented and all of that, and in particular the AKK, which was flagged off a couple of days ago by Mr. President. Now, tell us something. How much local content are we seeing in all of this?
Okay, thank you. Very good question. I thought that question should have gone to the ESNCDMB. But it's okay. I think I can relate with that. Now, if NNPC is the agency running this, and so what we know in terms of the contracting is predominantly between Nigerians and, of course, their technical partners overseas. So we have one of the pioneer indigenous companies, OISAV, that is managing the leg from Jaokuta up to Kaduna. And then from Kaduna, we have Bentex, that is in partnership with the Chinese company that is addressing all of this. And predominantly, most of the workforce will be coming in from Nigeria because we have that in-country capacity and capability to address that. And like I did mention, it's a 2.8 billion gas pipeline project, alongside other gas pipeline project that is going on in the country, like the Escravos-Lagos pipeline system number 2, that is going to supply gas to the western part of the country, and of course bring up the industries there. And then in the west, in the south-south region, we have the what we call the OB3, Obiafo, Obricom, Oben gas pipeline project that will address